I rifled through the storage bin in Tom Sears Street basement. I found what I was looking for and held it with pride in front of a full-faced grin. It was the vintage Eagles Letterman jacket that my father bought for me at a flea market in Bensalem for $1, probably 10, 15 years ago, back before the Eagles went on a solid run with Andy Reid, Donovan McNabb. $1. When the birds were low, merch was a tough sell. And the patch on the upper left arm was an ever-present taunt, a reminder that, but for what was so long was our only Super Bowl disappointment, suffered years before my birth. For many years, it was a special occasion jacket that eventually started to feel like a jinx, worn with slumped shoulders, hanging head, walking home from a bar, another playoff blunder. I started to wonder why the damn thing only cost $1, questioning whether I ought to pass it off on a new owner. But I knew this time would be different. 4 months prior, I was sitting up at 8 a.m. in my hotel room in Bangkok, working on my laptop and watching the Eagles play live for the first time in 3 years. I was immediately struck by their fluidity, their chemistry on the field and on the sidelines, their balance of skills across the entire squad. This team looks like a champion, I said aloud to an empty room. They got that magic, that special touch. Then I sealed my fate. If the Eagles make it to the Super Bowl, I'm going home. I had the good fortune of watching a handful of games throughout the season, and the sense that they were for real as a team. Not any one position, not a single ego in sight, only intensified. There was something really different about this team, unlike anything I'd ever seen in a lifetime of following sports. When Carson went down, it almost seemed inevitable. Of course we would lose our star quarterback. We're eternally cursed. And that's never going to change. Everyone seemed to believe this to be true. I wondered how the misfortune might impact the promise that I'd made to myself. But unlike the various pundits, I continued to believe. I couldn't name a backup I'd rather have stepping in than a veteran like Foles, under the guidance of a coach who believed in him 100%. I made it known that the doubters were highly misinformed, that this would make for an epic storybook tale if he could just pull it off. What I saw each and every time was something bigger than the biggest and the best quarterback in the league. This was a group of guys carrying a city, bearing the weight of its every hope, its every dream, and understanding every single step of the way what was at stake. I watched our boys' dominant performance from Jake's, which is a stellar American barbecue joint in Ho Chi Minh City, Vietnam. If you're ever in the neighborhood, be sure to give it a look. I watched it in the company of 4 other Philly guys at 6:30 a.m. on a Monday morning. While elated throughout the game, the sense of dissonance was palpable. I knew I couldn't bear being this far away after battling so much over the last year when the Eagles win their first Super Bowl. I waited until I got back to my apartment to make the final decision. With all the details in place, I hovered over the booking button and broke down in tears. I was going to be in Philadelphia with my people, with my family, for the first time in 2.5 years, and the Eagles are going to win a Super Bowl, baby. Homesick for the better part of the past 6 months and unable to find the right combination of factors to make a trip back, everything just seemed to line up in magical fashion. I knew that at the very least, the timing of this would mean seeing as many friends and relatives as possible, especially on parade day. This kind of confidence was something like I never felt as a Philadelphia sports fan since birth. Arriving in Philly 3 days before the game, it was apparent that everyone had the same feeling. We were going to do it. Together, as a team, as a city, as a family, we were going to bring it home. The jubilation, the frenzy that set off when the clock hit 0 and we still had the lead. Unreal. That feeling was packed with so many pieces, so much bigger than the game itself. We believed with more faith than we ever believed before, and they delivered. Crumbling to the floor and embracing my brother, I wept uncontrollably. We did it. We did it. We did it. We did it. We finally did it. Walking tall around South Philly in the days after the Super Bowl, eyes landed with nostalgia upon the jacket. After years and years and years of misery and heartbreak, the jacket was finally a source of pride. I joked with friends that I might sell the jacket at the parade, and the price continued to climb with each comment from passers-by. There was no way I could sell this jacket. On a beautiful February morning, at a time of year we've most surely never had a parade, I watched the champs pass by Broad and Wharton and made my way on foot up to the art museum to join my dad, my brother, cousins, aunts, uncles. Spotted my father's 6'4" frame, snuck up behind him, and whispered the words again. We did it. We did it. We did it. We did it. We finally did it. He turned and squeezed me in his arms stronger than I could ever recall. He took a deep breath and looked me up and down with his hands on my shoulders and tears in his eyes. He looked at the jacket up and down. You'll have to put a 52 patch right there. Patted me on the chest. That sounds pretty good to me. I'm glad you came home, you knucklehead. He followed with a grin. And he pulled me back in for more of the good stuff. It just may have been the happiest day of his entire life. And I'm so thankful to have been able to make it. I'd like to thank everyone across 3 countries, 4 flights, various couches, who made it possible for me to come back. It was so wonderful to see all of you, and I hope we can do it again soon. This story is dedicated to Rich, a good friend and neighbor of a really close friend of mine, Elise. Rich was a faithful Eagles fan through and through. He celebrated the Birds' Super Bowl victory, but passed on parade day. If Rich had a final wish, I would have to believe it came true.